Coming in at number 10, we have the coronavirus mutates. I mean, it's been something that has changed the whole world. Everyone has been going in and out of lockdown, and catching this sickness apparently sucks. It can make it feel like someone is sitting on your chest. But let's just think about this for a moment. What if it got even worse? What if the coronavirus chugged a monster energy drink and then became something even more powerful than it was before? And what if it's able to go over level 9000? As of right now, we're good, and it seems like most of the world has this under control. There's even word that a vaccine could be out this year, and there's things like Regeneron, whatever the hell that thing is, but it seems like it works. So we should be pushing back against this virus pretty strong. But what if right when we fix things, but right when it seems like we're putting the genie back in the bottle, we have the world come crashing down, and then the virus gets even worse? Well, let me tell you, I'm going to get way better at video games because it looks like there would be way more indoor time. If this does happen, please let it go down during the winter because I want to be running around half naked during the summer for 2021. And remember guys, you can like, comment, subscribe, and hit the little notification bell, and stick around until the end of the video because I'm going to be answering some exclusive questions from my Instagram inbox.
Coming in at number 9, we have artificial intelligence. Everyone needs to throw out their Amazon Alexa, Roomba, smart fridges, smart watches, and whatever other AI products you have. Why? Because in 2021, artificial intelligence is said to become smarter than human intelligence, and this is going to result in them taking over the world. Nostradamus predicted that, and I quote, "The moon in the full of night over the high mountain. The new sage with a lone brain sees it. By his disciples invited to be immortal. Eyes to the south, hands in bosoms, bodies in the fire." Okay, I didn't understand anything I just read, and I know it seems very cryptic, but a lot of people are convinced that he was referring to artificial intelligence overthrowing humans. Soon we're going to create robots that will be too smart for their own good. Maybe it's already too late.
Coming in at number 8, we have the baby translator. Those of you who are fans of some of the original episodes of The Simpsons will remember Homer's brother Herb. He was the guy who was really making a name for himself and basically was the opposite of Homer. He was a go-getter, he was intelligent, and had a full head of hair. In one episode, Herb throws together a baby translator so that people can talk to their little goo bags, and it works perfectly on Maggie. Now this might sound kind of strange, but tech similar to this has worked for a while. In China there have been a series of apps that are supposed to help you understand your baby better. Most of these apps work on the noises that babies make by deciphering what the child needs. Are they hungry? Are they sleepy? Did they just poop their pants? So next year I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something similar to this in the West. This could be very scary because the more we bring technology in between us and our kids, the more we're going to lose our parental instincts. But maybe instincts are a thing of the past and we all gotta be automated from here on out. Coming in at number 7, we have massive animal migrations. As of now, we see a bear or some wild animal come into the city every now and again. Some animals have learned how to call the city home. Pigeons, crows, and raccoons seem to be making a great job of living in the concrete jungle. But what do you think is going to happen when more and more of these animals' food supplies and habitats get destroyed? Do you think they're just going to lay down and die? Or are they going to do what every other living creature does when it gets into this situation and fight for survival? And where do you think the best place to survive will be? Probably the highly populated cities that have tons of food and people to eat. We are going to see animals from all walks of life start to invade our cities, and honestly, I don't blame them. We destroyed everything they had. They're coming to our front door to tell us to fix it. Oh, and remember what I said about animals and disease? They could bring a bunch of those horrible diseases with them. Next on the list, we have mind control through music. I mean, the list has been so cheerful so far, so why not keep down the road of all these happy thoughts? I don't know if you guys remember, but there's an episode of The Simpsons where Bart becomes one of the faces of the biggest pop band in America. Screaming teens are in love with them, and it seems like everything's going to finally play out for The Simpsons perfectly. That's until it's revealed that the reason that people love the music so much is because the CIA has been using it to control people's minds. Now, it has been speculated that the CIA has been up to this for a long time. I mean, we don't have to bring up the dirty details with MK Ultra, but we all know that the CIA would love to find a way to control people's minds. And we all know some stupid catchy song that got stuck in our head that we can never get rid of. On top of this, being a sound engineer is a real thing. People know how to make beats that will drive people crazy. But in that episode, the reason that the CIA wants to get into everyone's head is because they're actually trying to convince people to join the Navy. I mean, and it's been so long since the NSA slip up that I feel like we're due for another government leak. And coming in at number 5, we have the Area 51 invasion actually happens. There have been a lot of talks of making the Area 51 gathering a yearly thing. Now of course with the coronavirus, people have been gathering in large groups, and who knows when this will come up again. We might not be able to have mass gatherings for another 2 years, but let's say we get all this virus stuff figured out and then we have an Area 51 reunion. Will people actually come out to raid it this time? Maybe if one of my last points happens and there's mass chaos in the streets, then that will leave the whole base open for a crew of people to sneak in and try and take it down and let all the secrets out. This might be so cool, but there might be some stuff locked away in there for a reason that we should never get our hands on.
In our 4th spot, we have World War III. 2021 might just be the year where we face World War III. Tension is rising between countries, especially now because of the situation we're all in. In fact, this was a prediction made by Nostradamus. For 2021, he predicted, and I quote, "In the city of God there will be a great thunder, 2 brothers torn apart by chaos. While the fortress endures, the great leader will succumb. The 3rd big war will begin when the big city is burning." Oh my god, when the big city is burning, California is burning. So a global war might just break out between the most powerful countries in the world in 2021.
Coming in at number 3, we have a billionaire will try and control the sun. It's not surprising that the super rich are constantly doing things to try and profit off the environment at the cost of a healthy planet and the people who live on it. Very few of them care about the cost of doing business unless the cost is actual dollar signs. Well, in one episode of The Simpsons, Mr. Burns blocks out the sun so that all of Springfield has to use the power plant energy 24 hours a day. This could be the next big move for the rich and evil. They are already cutting down swaths of the rainforest, which is causing forest fires because there's less moisture in the air, therefore less clouds because vegetation produces a ton of vapor. They've poisoned water supplies around the world, so the next thing they could be trying to control is whether or not you're allowed to be in the sun.
In our 2nd spot, we have these sinking cities. As I mentioned before, one of the results of climate change is sea levels rising, resulting in more wetland flooding. This has a number of disastrous effects, such as destruction of crops, agricultural soil contamination, and loss of habitat for animals. Then we have the fact that hundreds of coastal cities face flooding. Now here is the scariest part. Bangkok is currently sinking at a rate of more than 1 centimeter a year and could be underwater by 2030. That's insane. Parts of New Orleans are sinking at a rate of 2 inches per year and could be underwater by 2100. And Miami might have to soon raise its structures to stay above water.
And coming in at the number 1 spot, we have the VR takeover. The Simpsons has played around with virtual reality a lot. In part 1 of this series, I talked about how they had an episode that had virtual reality food, a very strange concept, but they have gone way further than that. In the episode where Mr. Burns gets a VR set to live out his wildest fantasies, which is basically being Homer Simpson, this eventually spreads to everyone in the world having a VR headset because this is better than all of their regular lives. Well, the next generation of consoles comes out this year, and a new generation of graphics cards and processors came out for PC, so this could mean that there will be a huge step forward in the world of VR. Could we see the killer app that comes out for VR next year? The one that will suck everyone into their dream life, and then people will stop showing up at work, and we'll have everyone wanting to stay home and download a world that is better than the real world that they live in? Who knows?
Starting off this countdown, we have the great disasters. I know everyone thinks that 2020 is the worst year and nothing will be able to top it. Just wait and see. According to clairvoyant Baba Vanga, she predicted that 2021 will be filled with great suffering and disasters. She said, and I quote, "The world will suffer from a lot of cataclysms and great disasters. The consciousness of people will change. Difficult times will come. People will be divided by their faith. We are witnessing devastating events that will change the fate and destiny of humanity." Great. Now she didn't say what exactly these devastating events are, but with everything that's currently going on in the world right now, I'm sure it'll have to do something with all that. So buckle your seatbelts, it's gonna be a rough and intense year.
Coming in at number 9, we have virtual reality food. The world of VR is constantly growing, and people are trying to find the killer application that will send this tech into the loving arms of the mainstream. The people who make VR tech want every family to have some sort of headset in their home so they can get hooked up to a digital landscape whenever they want. VR food was showcased in in one episode of The Simpsons where we take a peek into the future. In their world it was 2030, but with VR already coming in hot, there's a good chance that we could see something like this next year. There's already cruise ship companies that have been putting together entire VR cruise experiences because people can no longer travel via cruise ship thanks to the coronavirus. So now they want to sell you the whole experience via headset. You could walk through the halls of a beautiful boat, see sun shining down on you. There's also an entire dining experience. Obviously you can't taste the food, but I wonder if down the road we'll get VR nose plugs that will shoot smells into our nose, and then you have something to put on your tongue that stimulates your taste buds. Why is this scary? Because I don't want people to take food away from me. I don't need that in my life.
In our 8th spot, we have the hurricanes. Scientists have discovered that hurricanes are happening more frequently now and are far more disastrous. They have linked this to global warming. A number of factors are making these storms more powerful, like the rising ocean temperatures and the rising sea levels. As a result, hurricanes are predicted to be far more intense and deadly. In fact, these hurricanes are said to carry higher wind speeds and more precipitation as a result of global warming. In a 2013 study, researchers found that Category 4 and 5 storms are on the rise. They will happen more frequently, will have a longer duration period, and will be more destructive, which puts people and property at risk.
Coming in at number 7, we have chaos in the streets. This has to be the most watched election ever. What is going down in the United States is going to determine the fate of the country 100 times over. If the whole world is watching, either way it goes, we could have a ton of angry people in the streets trying to tear each other apart. I mean, it's so hard to know what to believe. When you know that there was Russian bots influencing the last election, you better believe that they have them on every Reddit thread and Facebook page this time around. And what will happen after the election? Will people accept the electoral results and then move on with their lives, or will people start to tear down the world because they didn't get their way? Trump was even talking about how he might not accept the results if he loses. What does that mean? Can you do that? Can you lose and just say no? How would America react to that? What is going to come in the future? Coming in at number 6, we have someone dethrones Joey Chestnut. We all know the champ. He's the biggest one out there. The guy who has set the record for the most hot dogs eaten in a single sitting. The guy who has chomped down more grub than any other person on the planet. The guy who has the title as the top dog of the competitive eating world. We all know that I'm talking about Joey Chestnut. What if a new kid on the block comes through and takes the title from the champ? I mean, he has been on top for a long time, so maybe he's getting a little too old to keep chomping down with these kids. We all remember when Kobayashi was the hot dog eating champ of the world, but then young Joey Chestnut came in and stole the title from him. It will be a very sad day for everyone around the world to see the one true champ go down and lose, but hopefully 2021 doesn't bring something this devastating. After that, guys, we got TOMACCO. This has to be one of the most famous episodes of The Simpsons. Homer uses some radioactive sludge to mix tomato seeds and tobacco seeds, and it turns out to be the most addictive thing that has ever existed. Well, in a way, this Simpsons prediction has already come true. We have GMO food, but what if it goes one step further? What if in 2021 we don't have tobacco-infused vegetables, but cannabis? We already have people who are making all sorts of cannabis edibles. That is nothing new. Those practices have been going on since before I was born. The legalization of cannabis has been spreading for quite some time now, and in some places like my sweet home of Canada, we have legal weed spread through the whole country. So with legalization comes government and corporate funded experiments. Will we see cannabis infused vegetables that are pulled right from the ground with cannabinoids in them? That would really mess up the few rabbits who come in to steal from farmers. After that, guys, we got robot doctors. This really seems like a matter of time, when you can just program the directions for a surgery into a machine and then it can cut with the precision of a samurai who's charged up on Ritalin. You don't have to worry about any mistakes after that. Well, if we do get there in 2021, guess who predicted it? In the episode Holidays of Future Past, we get to see what the world would look like in the future, and at one point Maggie is visited by a robot doctor. I mean, look at how the world is working right now. With a virus spreading all over the world, the last thing you want to do is actually go to a doctor's office. So everyone is dealing with doctors through screens or over the phone. That seems like we are so much closer to having machines take this job as well. I mean, even if it's not in the next year, the thing to pay attention to is that in the future, there is zero job security. Unless you have a job fixing robots, which actually sounds like a pretty good idea.
In our 3rd spot, we have the asteroids. It's crazy to think about how small Earth is in comparison to the universe. Like, we're just a helpless little planet. At any second, some massive asteroid could come hurtling down towards the Earth and kill us all. Scary thing is, in 2021, it's predicted that bigger asteroids will come closer to Earth. Apparently, there's going to be a lot of close calls. So not only are there going to be more asteroids getting close to Earth, but they're going to be way bigger as well. All you need is one of these bad boys to enter our Earth's atmosphere and we're done. Let's not jinx it though. Think positive thoughts.
Coming in at number 2, we have environmental disasters. In the Simpsons movie, the launch pad for the movie's conflict is when Homer is throwing out pig poop into the Springfield Lake. This is already a cesspool of disease, and the added poop sends Springfield into a mode of environmental disaster. We could see something like this again in 2021. I mean, probably. There's basically been some sort of environmental catastrophe every year for who knows how long. There was the water in Flint, Michigan, the forest fires in California, the fires in Australia, the BP oil spill, the list goes on and on. So will there be something next year that will cause all of us to be on high alert because we've done some serious damage to our gentle planet once again? Well, it would seem that could be true. I really hope not, because I don't know how many more punches to the gut the planet can take before its knees start to buckle. And coming in at the number 1 spot, we have the insect takeover. There are a lot of things that warmer weather can bring. You get some nice sun in your face, you can spend more time at the cottage, you can go for a swim and not have to worry about getting too cold. But something that summer always brings, especially if you're out in the country, is bugs. Every summer you have swarms of insects that curse the land and leave bites that are so irritating they will make you wish that you couldn't feel anything that came in contact with your skin. Now, insects are a part of the circle of life. They do a lot of good things for the environment, but part of that circle is that when winter comes, it gets cold enough to kill off most of the bugs, so we don't have infestations of them running in the wild. Now, if the winter stops getting cold enough to kill off all the bugs, we will start seeing them multiply uncontrollably to the point where they're everywhere all the time. You might just think this would be annoying, but it could be extremely dangerous depending on the insect. Like in North America, we have the brown recluse spider. Its venom can leave holes in your skin, and it's so powerful that people used to think that it gave you flesh-eating disease. That spider's population is controlled by harsh winters. Take that away, and those things will reproduce all year long. Coming in at number 10, we have time travel. The Simpsons has messed around with time travel many times. I think my favorite is when Homer makes a time machine out of a toaster and ends up flying through time and resetting reality so much that he eventually has to settle for a family that has tongues like chameleons. But that small change is so much better than the rest of the horrors that he saw. Maybe 2021 is the year. Maybe next year we will see someone open up a door through time and space, and we will be able to start sending items through a wormhole. If there is this discovery, I don't think people will start flying back through time. I think it would start with small things like sending small particles back in time. I think that's about as interesting as it'll get. But I would love for the way that time travel is discovered is the same way that Homer discovered it in that episode of Treehouse of Horror, with some sort of bumbling fellow just trying stuff out in his basement, and then he's like, oh, look at that, I discovered time travel. That would be so cool. Coming in number 9, we have the crash of the labor market because of mechanization. This has been on the horizon for a long time, with factory jobs being able to be done more and more by robots. The idea of being a cab driver or a truck driver becoming the thing of the past with self-driving cars, and every last fast food and retail job being taken away because we now have self-checkout and burger making machines. That's millions of jobs gone. And while a future where robots do everything that we don't want to do sounds like a paradise, there needs to be some balance put in place. If there are no jobs to replace the millions of jobs lost, then you need a universal basic income to fund these people. If there isn't any sort of support and no way to make money, then you have people running around in the streets with no money and a lot of desperation, and that isn't what we want to see. But this might bring us closer to a utopia. My idea of a utopia has always been that robots take care of all the stuff that we don't want to do, and every last person is free to just work on art and science or whatever their heart desires. You can just watch football all day if you want. Coming in at number 8, we have the Earth finally breaks. This bad boy has been cracking for a little while. We have seen the effects of climate change creeping in for years, and really, we have not slowed down that much outside of the pandemic, forcing us to stay inside and lower lower our carbon footprint. But is it enough? Have we turned around what we've been doing fast enough to stop the Earth from breaking? Because right now we have been seeing some pretty devastating events happening. There have been forest fires around the world, droughts in the Middle East, and the polar ice caps are melting. But what's the next thing? Could we see the pH levels in the ocean get messed up and we'll have mass die-offs of marine life and thus huge food shortages? And you don't want to see what happens when people get hungry. Coming in at number 7, we have holographic mail. Now The Simpsons definitely isn't the first form of media to predict holograms, and they won't be the last, but they have showcased some future tech of holograms, and it would seem that this tech is right on the horizon. A few years ago, Microsoft showcased some augmented reality tech. They showed Minecraft just appearing on a table, and it was mind-blowing. On top of that, there's the new cube wall in South Korea.
This huge 80 by 20 meter wave trapped inside what appears to be an aquarium is a public art installation displayed on South Korea's biggest digital billboard.
That is so insane. You could have a full-on 3D representation of people in your home if you had something like that in your living room. The only scary part about this would be someone sending unsolicited nudes through one of these bad boys. It would be pretty horrifying to have a 6-foot 3D penis just show up in your house from an unknown stranger who sent it via a blocked number. And if you don't think that's going to happen, then you have too much faith in humanity. I'm waiting for someone to hack that cube wall to show something perverted to thousands of people. Coming in at number 6, we have releasing a species into space. One of the most famous episodes of The Simpsons is when Homer gets to go to space. And what does Homer do while he's up in space? Well, he unleashes an ant colony on the people in the ship, and it would seem that all hell has broken loose. Now, this could be something we'll see in the next year. We know that SpaceX wants to go to Mars super bad, and if they send people up there, it will most likely be a one-way trip. They might tell you you're gonna come back, but I highly doubt that. So I could see someone bringing a pet along with them so they have some company while they're on this crazy voyage. What happens when they get to Mars? Well, would the ants be able to survive the trip? I have no idea. But I don't want to find out what happens to ants if they come in contact with aliens and get mutated into some sort of super ants that can survive on Mars, and then the whole planet is run by ants.
We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the pandemic. I know everyone hates the pandemic and social distancing and quarantine, but it's not going to end anytime soon, sadly. In fact, experts are convinced that towards the end of 2020 and into 2021, it's going to get worse again. Particularly areas where it gets colder during the winter months, like Canada. Yay for us. So researchers have found that viruses tend to thrive during the colder months. So they're convinced that December to March will be really bad for the virus. There will be more outbreaks and cases. Another expert believes that from here on out, every winter COVID will come back and there will be another outbreak. Every winter! I wish I was kidding. We might get the virus under control, but every winter, it could come back. That's the worst news ever. In our 4th spot, we have the Arctic. It's said that the Arctic is warming at almost twice the rate than any other area is. This has a number of negative impacts. For starters, we have the sea ice. The sea ice is vital to Arctic animals like the polar bear, who are now suffering as a result. Polar bears use sea ice as a platform to hunt seals, but now since they are disappearing, polar bears have to swim further to find food and go longer periods without food. As a result, few cubs actually manage to survive, and those that do are way smaller and weaker. In fact, we could lose more than 30% of the world's polar bears by 2050. Not only that, but the Arctic could be totally ice-free by the summer of 2040, meaning polar bears and other Arctic animals could potentially go extinct. Imagine how bad this would be for our delicate ecosystem.
After that, guys, we got a female president. We are obviously in the throes of an election in this moment. At the moment of me recording this video, there isn't a defined winner, but by the time this video goes up, who knows what the future will look like. But if Joe Biden wins, then we will have Kamala Harris as the VP. We all know this, but Joe Biden is an older dude. So what if in his first year in office, he has to step down because of health problems, and we have Kamala Harris step in as president? This would give America the first female president. That would be wild for the whole country, and it might open the door to more people accepting AOC running for president in the next election, since she will be old enough by then.
Coming in at number 2, we have the apocalypse. Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, bam! Life as we know it might just completely get wiped out in 2021. A bunch of futurists believe that 2021 is the end of times. But they never told us how it's going to happen. Maybe the virus is incurable and slowly but surely we will all get infected and die. Who knows? But here's the thing. A couple of months ago, people discovered that in the Ethiopian calendar, 2020 is actually 2012. And remember that huge scare we had back in 2012? That's when everyone said the world was ending. Now clearly, that didn't happen. But if they are right and the world is going to end in 2012, well, this year is technically 2012, which means that we're all dead by 2021.
And coming into the #1 spot, we have the end of privacy. We have seen this start to happen more and more. It started with Alexa in your home, listening to you all the time. Google Home was the next one. We know our phones are listening to everything we say. We all get random ads that pop up. It's always something that we were just talking about, something that we have never Googled before in our life, and next thing you know, you have ads for it all over the place. Now we have PlayStation letting users send in voice recordings of people who were rude to them, who they were playing online with. On top of all of this, Facebook has been selling your data to the NSA and has been tracking your information. It's been proven that Apple is working with the NSA. It seems that these massive companies will keep painting us into a corner with listening devices until they know every last thing we do. They'll label it as convenience or necessity or even safety, but really they just want to know more information about you so they can make more money. Coming in at number 10, we have robot takeover. The Simpsons was constantly doing social commentary and references to movies and other forms of media, so it should be no surprise that they had an episode that was very much in the vein of Jurassic Park meets Terminator. The family goes to visit the brand new Itchy and Scratchy land, and while they're there, the robots go rogue and try to kill everyone in the park. Obviously, the family manages to make it out with all their pieces intact. Now, could this robot takeover be around the corner? We have more automation in parts of our lives than ever before. I mean, the cars are self-driving now. With the global pandemic happening, it would seem that the push to have automation more available is coming even faster. So we're gonna have more versions of robots everywhere, which would make the world ripe for a robot takeover in 2021. Coming in number 9, we have more disease. We hope that the current pandemic is just part of the natural cycle of things. We've had pandemics in the past, and they're just par for the course. And before I go any further, guys, of course I would love it if you could like, comment, subscribe, and hit the little notification bell. And stick around till the end of the list because we're going to be answering some comments from our previous video, Top 10 Scary Halloween Urban Legends. Well, maybe not. There's a lot of predictions that suggest an increased spreading of new diseases could be caused by climate change. For one, the warmer weather brings a better breeding ground for diseases. Viruses and bacteria like when it's warm so they can keep reproducing and mutating. On top of this, as more and more environments get destroyed, animals have to go deeper and deeper into the wilderness. Thus, they will come in contact with more things that could have stayed buried away in deep caves and forests, aka mysterious illnesses. And as we keep chopping down forests, we are going to go deeper and deeper into the wilderness as well, and then come in contact with said animals, and now we will have a whole new plague to deal with.
In our 8th spot, we have the mind transferring. Okay, this one is really strange. But basically it said that in 2021 we will have the technology to upload our brains into a computer. No. I literally just finished saying how artificial intelligence is going to take over the world. Let's not become robots. I have no clue where this prediction came from, but someone predicted that we will have the ability to basically transfer our minds into a computer. But by doing so, this will kill our human selves. I don't know what happens after that. Like, do they know that they're in a computer, or is it just like a way for us to browse through their mind and memories? It's so trippy. Please, let's just stay away from that. It's gonna end badly. That's my prediction.
Next on the list, we have personal robots. There have been plenty of episodes of The Simpsons where we have glimpses into the future, and in most of those episodes we have people using personalized robots, usually for relationships. I mean, that's the first thing that people think about when the words personal robot come up. But how close are we to this? Is this something that could be realized next year? Well, with the pandemic happening, it has made it a lot harder to meet people, so maybe maybe this will fast track people's interest in having an automated love companion.
Coming in at number 6, we have the fires. This year, we lost hundreds of thousands of animals and acres of land due to devastating wildfires, like the one in Australia or the ongoing ones in California. Hate to break it to you, but more wildfires are on their way. Climate change has caused more droughts and heat waves. Combined with temperatures rising, we have created the perfect environment for fires to thrive in. In fact, researchers have found that over the past few decades, there have been bigger and more intense fires across the American West. This is due to climate change, obviously, or else it wouldn't be on this list. Another study said, and I quote, "More than 5 million acres have already burned this year, and much more may be yet to come." Meaning in the upcoming years, millions more animals will die and lose their homes to wildfires, and millions of acres of land will be engulfed in flames.
Coming in at number 5, we have Bigfoot is discovered. I mean, that would be par for the course with everything that has been going on in the world. It wouldn't necessarily be bad, but it would just be insane. Well, in one episode of The Simpsons back in 2002, Bart witnesses a Bigfoot just walking around to the public when he's up in Canada. So will this happen? Will the mysterious ape man be discovered in the Great White North? Well, maybe we already have discovered him up here and we just haven't told you guys because it's the biggest secret in Canada. Maybe everyone knows about Bigfoot up here and we just don't tell the rest of you because he can't be trusted. Coming in at number 4, we have anything from space. Space is an endless void of mystery and terror. Some of the stuff out there is very interesting, like life on other planets, and the idea that we could move to a new planet if we really screw this one up. But then there's things like black holes that are billions of times heavier than our sun. Those things are kind of spooky, and what if some of that stuff starts to come in contact with us? I mean, anything could come in from space in 2021. We could have an asteroid fly in and smash into the planet, sending us into an early extinction. That's not that crazy to think about either. In 2019, there was an asteroid that passed by the Earth that was 1/5 the distance of the moon away from the planet, and NASA didn't even see it until 2 days after it passed by the Earth. What if we get in contact with an alien race that isn't so friendly, or there could be some sort of solar flare that smacks into the Earth and sends us all to hell? Coming in at number 3, we have toxic air. When climate change was originally just called global warming, I used to think, what's the big deal? I would love for it to get warmer everywhere. But I didn't think about how warmer weather all over the world would mean that the soil is way more dry, that the trees are way more dry, that the land would become one massive tinderbox, and at any second a bolt of lightning could come down and start up a fire. Now we have seen this all over the west coast and in Australia and the Amazon rainforest, and there was also a massive fire over in Africa that was happening at the same time that the rainforest was on fire. Now these fires don't stop there. The ash from these fires spreads for miles in every direction and makes it too dangerous to go outside because you can't breathe the air. Literally, as climate change gets worse, you won't be able to breathe anymore. Every home will need an air purifier in it just so people can survive. And coming at the number 2 spot, we have big companies slowing down clean energy. I mean, it's no shock that we need to stop using fossil fuels and turn to cleaner forms of energy. We know that eventually we are going to run out of fossil fuels, and in the meantime we are wreaking havoc on the environment. So hopefully in 2021 we will see a massive shift, but The Simpsons predicted something blocking us from getting there. In one episode, Lisa participates in a clean energy derby, and her derby racer is unable to finish the race because it uses solar energy, and a Duff blimp comes in and blocks out the sun. This is obviously a metaphor for how massive corporations get in the way of clean energy, and for the most part big companies don't want to switch our fuel sources because it will lose them money.
And in our number 1 spot, we have the continual outbreaks. Got some good news, got some bad news. Good news, we might get a vaccine for COVID-19 eventually. Bad news, in 2021, more outbreaks are going to occur from different viruses. So child astrologer Abiga Anand actually posted a video on his YouTube channel on August of 2019 where he predicted a pandemic. Recently, he posted another video saying that next year in 2021, more viruses will come, resulting in more outbreaks. He predicts that some of these outbreaks will be more severe than COVID. Great, that's just what I needed to hear today. This is such a depressing video. Starting off this countdown, we have the next 18 months. So as I mentioned before, the next 18 months are said to determine how life on Earth is going to end up. Scientists have predicted that if we continue on with our ways and don't make a plan to stop climate change, then life as we know it will change forever. Prince Charles spoke up about this and said, and I quote, "I am firmly of the view that the next 18 months will decide our ability to keep climate change to survivable levels and to restore nature to the equilibrium we need for our survival." So basically, if we don't take more action to stop global warming, then the Earth is just going to continue to heat and reach a point where it's impossible for us to live on Earth. That's terrifying.
Coming in at number 9, we find out the government is run by aliens. Oh my god, David Icke would love this so much. That angry Brit loves to come on TV and tell everyone that aliens have been running the show the whole time. Not to mention Alex Jones. That guy would have a field day and people would elect him as the new leader of the free world. Well, let's stick to the motif of the Treehouse of Horror, but there is one memorable episode where Homer reveals that the 2 candidates who are running for president are actually aliens, and it is of course Kang and Kodo. I don't know why those two have so much of an obsession over Earth. They have the whole galaxy to explore. Well, it has been speculated for a long time that the whole government is actually run by lizard people. Now, I'm not saying that I believe in this, but I'm just saying that people have been talking about it a lot, and some people believe this so wholeheartedly they will fight over it. Well, The Simpsons predicted it, so I would say it has a better chance of being real than not being real. We're also finishing up an election, so this theory kind of lines up. And guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the little notification bell, and stick around for the whole list because I'm going to be shouting out some people from my Instagram. If you want me to give you a shout out, you can hit me up through the gram. Next on the list, we have enslaved humanity. Rolling off my last point in that same episode, where we have it revealed to everyone that the 2 candidates are aliens, what quickly happens after that it's clear that aliens are running the world, we all become enslaved. That doesn't sound like a good turnaround for 2021. Things were supposed to get better next year, remember? Well, that seems like it would be the logical progression. We would all be turned into a bunch of mindless drones that are focused on following orders from our alien overlords. I mean, if things are going to continue worse than they were in 2020, I think it would be perfect if everything unfolded like this. And when I say perfect, I mean like in an HBO sense of perfect. Usually a lot of people die and everyone's worse off, but it's extremely entertaining.
In our 7th spot, we have the re-election. So for all you Trump haters out there, it's predicted that he will be re-elected, which is going to be very problematic for America. A lot of people are concerned over the way he is treating the pandemic. America has the highest amount of COVID-19 deaths, and the numbers are rising. He just can't grasp the severity of the pandemic. On top of that, he was asked how he felt about the fact thousands of Americans are dying every day from the virus, and he replied with, "They are dying, that's true. It is what it is." So it's predicted that if Trump is re-elected, then the cases will continue to rise in America. That's very scary to think about. Moving on to number 6, we have the natural disasters. The Earth has faced a number of devastating fires this year. From the Australian wildfires that occurred earlier this year that destroyed more than 6.3 million hectares of land, to the current California wildfires that show no sign of stopping. These fires have been disastrous. This year alone, nearly 40,000 wildfires have burned over 4 million acres. And in 2021, they're only going to get worse. Climate change is a real issue, and we only have a couple of years left before we basically kill the Earth. Next year, we're going to experience warmer and drier conditions and increased droughts, which wildfires thrive in. But we have more to worry about than just forest fires. Because of climate change, we're going to be facing more natural disasters, like tsunamis and hurricanes.
Coming in number 5, we have mass ocean die-offs. As wild and dangerous as the ocean might seem, it's actually a very delicate place. We have already seen what some of the effects of climate change can do to things like the Great Barrier Reef. A massive portion of one of the natural wonders of the world has been destroyed because of human interaction. And that's only affecting the coral, that's not even touching the stuff that we eat. But as the climate continues to change, we increase the chances of the pH balance in the ocean to be thrown off. If this happens, the oceans won't properly be oxygenated, and this will mean that none of the fish can breathe. I know it's wild to think that fish are breathing underwater, but they are. That's what the gills are all about. If this happens, we will not only have less food to eat, but we will have millions of of dead, rotting fish floating around the ocean, and I don't think that's going to create a healthy environment for us to live in. Coming in at number 4, we have the merging of all networks. Now, I don't know if we'll see all networks get sucked into one, but there have been a lot of acquisitions over the last few years. Disney is out buying up any property that gives its viewers the slightest hint of nostalgia, and a lot of networks are in dire strait right now because the ability to make content has been halted thanks to a global pandemic. So we could see a lot of big networks go out of business or come close to bankruptcy. They might try to save themselves by merging into one massive entity. We see this on one episode in The Simpsons where we get a glimpse into the future, and the major news network has become CNN, BC, BS, a division of ABC. Now, why would this be spooky? Well, it's already hard to get the facts from major news sources. All they really care about is ratings. It seems like journalistic integrity is out the window. Now, what would the world look like if one major face had a monopoly on news? That wouldn't be a pretty world to live in. Coming in at number 3, we have bad vaccines. This is something that's going to be on the table probably pretty soon. It seems that the trials with the vaccine for COVID-19 have been going well, and we might see some medical help in the form of a vaccine come very soon. But I don't know if I want to be the first in line to get this product. Remember when plasma TVs came out and they were all the rage? And then there was all these problems with them, images would burn into them and you couldn't leave them on. Then not long after that, there was a better version with the HD TVs that had none of those problems. You never want to be the early adopter of new tech. You want to wait to see how it affects the market before you make any hard choices. And the same thing could happen with vaccines. We could have a bad batch that makes people sick. There were a few strange things that happened with the swine flu vaccine. There was one girl who had all sorts of neurological problems after getting the vaccine. She had none of those problems before. There's a chance that this vaccine could be rushed because of the state of the world. Let's just say I'll wait for generation 2 or 3 on the vaccine before I get it. Coming in at number 2, we have no kissing on the lips. What if this becomes the new standard? Remember how you could give out smooches like it was nobody's business? You just walk up to all your boys, you give them a few smooches, you say how's your day going, and then you give them a few more smooches. Going on dates and meeting new people, would you both have to get a COVID test before you would feel comfortable kissing? What if that becomes the new normal where people are afraid to kiss people? Then you have kiss dealers who are just waiting around to give out kisses to people. Just people want to feel the warm touch of another person's mouth. $100 for a smooch, $300 for a makeout, and $500 for tongue. We slowly see kissing become a cultural taboo, and none of us are allowed to lock lips ever again. If someone catches you kissing out in public, you get fined or even arrested. I mean, that sounds like a dark, twisted Orwellian future that I really don't think will happen. Alright, and coming into the number 1 spot, we have the dome. Running off our last point in the same Simpsons movie, we have the entire town quarantined because of this environmental disaster. Now, most of the world is in some level of quarantine, whether it be indoor dining, everyone working from home, or you're like Florida and you don't have any sort of lockdown procedures, and the state just gave the okay to sell out Dolphins Stadium. That is crazy. Well, if things keep getting worse in some places, maybe we'll see the most intense of all lockdown procedures, the dome. In the Simpsons movie, the entire town is locked under a massive dome that makes sure no one can get in or out of the city. Could this happen somewhere in the world? Perhaps somewhere where the coronavirus has gotten out of control, or maybe the virus mutates along the line and an entire city or country needs to be closed down. The military flies in a dome and locks the city away in a forced quarantine. If that happens, you better start stockpiling on canned food because that's a very scary future.